Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Swedish-born New York City jazz guitarist Tomas Janzon. His 2019 CD, 130th and Lenox, is exactly where he lives in Harlem and is a homage to where he calls home and plays music. He was born in Stockholm, Sweden, and his musical quest started at the age of 7 playing the recorder. At 8, he began studying the cello, and by 12, he was performing with a chamber orchestra. Then, it would eventually lead to the guitar. From there, he would go to Los Angeles and learn quite a bit from mentors at the Musicians Institute, GIT. In 2001, he even went to Canada teaching as an artist in resident, and since 2002, he's been residing in New York City and very busy touring and teaching throughout the United States, Argentina, Brazil, Germany, Austria, and more. He's a fascinating cat, so please get to know him and dig this interview, my friends.
Thanks for taking a minute out for Neon Jazz today. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, of course. I'm honored to be with you.
Right on. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. I really, really dig 130th Lenox, your newest and latest CD. Talk to me about the vision for this project.
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, the vision is based on my location. So, and this is where I've been now for quite a few years at the corner of 130th and Lenox. I'm not out there on a sidewalk. I do actually live in a little pad here, but I'm renting in Harlem, and it's a great place to be. Yeah, so I came over here from Los Angeles. I drove across in 2000. It's been about 8 years now over here in New York. So it's great to be here, and so this album is kind of putting that together, the experiences of being here.
So starting at the beginning, you came a long way from Stockholm, Sweden.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about your upbringing in Sweden and how you got involved with music and jazz.
Oh, that was a big question. Okay, I'm trying to be brief then. The short answer, I kind of grew up with first in school back over there, we played recorder, this little kind of flute, wooden instrument. After that, I played the cello when I grew up. So I kind of grew up with classical music and played orchestra and chamber orchestras and all that. And then for different reasons, I had a dream about the guitar from when I was very young. So that came back to me later on in my teens. So, and then the jazz came into the picture there, and I was always into. That's what somebody wrote about. I was walking home a lot of times from school from my cello lessons. I played Bach and all this, and I would come up with melodies in my head, kind of improvising over those melodies, and that came just in place then when I was exposed to the jazz. Actually, of course, I heard jazz when I grew up. I remember from my grandmother's place listening to a lot of great jazz music on TV and so. But later on, it was one particular tune that just kind of turned it around for me, and that was Charlie Parker's "Cool Blues" that I got on a little EP, I think, in my early teens, and that's kind of just there was just something there in Parker Bird's playing it hit me.
From there, did you know when you were young that you were going to become a professional musician, or did this kind of happen over time?
No, I didn't know that, I did not know that. But music was always there, and I remember my mother said, when I got really upset, which would happen sometimes when I was a kid, I would disappear into my room, and after a while, she would hear me play the recorder. This is when I was 6 years old or something, 5, 6, I guess. So that was the way I was dealing with reality, I guess, with the music in a way already early on. And I did other things too. I tried to avoid becoming a musician in a way. I studied, at the university and so. But music was there, and finally I had to just go for it full time. Yeah.
So speaking of university and education, what kind of mentors have you had that really left an impact on you?
Oh, that was basically when I came over to America. It started to, in terms of getting mentors in this music. The first one was Joe Diorio in Los Angeles, I have to say. And he's still my mentor today. And this was in the 90s. I came into his office at GIT in Hollywood. And I started playing. And suddenly he said, "Oh, now I hear you." And then he was quiet, and I don't know what's going on. And then suddenly he would say, "Oh, now I hear you." And I realized every time he said that, "Now I hear you," I was like, I understood too. There was something that came out that was like, made sense in some way. For me too, I realized. And then I knew that this is my mentor, I didn't know that exactly right then, but I think intuitively I knew it, Yeah. And then there have been other ones too, like Sherman Ferguson, the drummer, that I started playing with in LA. The amazing late Sherman Ferguson, he unfortunately passed away, 61 years old only, just like my dad.
Wow.
So that was very sad. We were very close in Los Angeles. We played a lot together, me and him and Nedra Wheeler, that's also on this record actually. She was also in that trio with Sherman. My first record was yeah. So, yeah, it's been a few.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I know that you got out of university, you really started doing TV and film scores and music. Did you always have a dream of coming over to America? I mean, going to LA and getting to Hollywood and all of that, was that a big deal?
No, first I was on my way to New York. Yeah, I know I had to go to, because once I got into jazz, for me, I know I had to, I was sitting in my apartment in Stockholm listening to Wes Montgomery for years, and transcribing Wes, and it was like, what do you call that? It was like an enigma, a puzzle. It was something I could not figure out. Why was it so amazing, why was he talking to me so straight with his playing? It was something I had to figure out. So I went to America. I had to go there. And it was, I guess it was the combination of Parker and Wes Montgomery, those two. That was the big influences in jazz in the beginning and still today, of course, So I had to go to America, and I was on my way to New York. I went over to New York, and in the springtime there, and I just realized that it was amazing, of course, to be in New York, and I met a lot of, I heard Mary Lou, no, that was before that, I heard Mary Lou Williams in New York, but it wasn't the first time I was there, but it was, I just realized there was so many Europeans standing in line, European sax players standing in line waiting to play a solo, I felt in New York. So, and then my friends told me, there was some guitar friends of mine in Sweden, I said, why don't you go to GIT, because and I knew Joe Diorio was there, and I had his book. I found out that I didn't know I had it that early. It's called Intervallic Design by Joe Diorio. Somebody turned me on a book back in Stockholm. I bass player in Sweden, actually. I played with Joe over in LA. So that's how it happened. So then I went to LA. I'd never been there before, and I was in shock when I got there. I called back to an old girlfriend of mine, and I was crying on the phone. I remember she told me. So I didn't like it first.
Yeah. How did things start taking off for you? I'm sure it's really hard to come to America and do this. So how did things take off? How did you get to a comfort zone?
It was a great year at GIT. I played with Joe Porcaro's, the drummer Joe Porcaro's band, their house band, and Bob Magnuson, with Bob Magnuson on bass. That was amazing every week for the drummer sessions. And then I did a lot of stuff there, of course, with Joe Diorio every week. We were sitting at his office writing stuff, just new stuff. New harmonizations of Stella by Starlight, and another harmonization of this, and it just went on. And he's such an amazing inspiration, and he just goes on, and still he's writing today. That's why every time I call him now today, he's back in Waterbury, Connecticut now, and he sits there and writes new ideas and stuff. So, and you're asking me how did I get into the comfort zone? I guess, I was awarded the Outstanding Player of the Year at GIT, actually. And then I figured, I wanted to stay. I don't know how the idea was. I wanted to play solo guitars. I managed to stay in LA for some time there and play at small places, just cafes and restaurants, solo guitar. That was the first thing I did. Yeah.
So what do you like best about being a professional musician?
That was a tricky question. What I like best about it? It's life for me. I mean, that's what I'm doing all the time. So I'm a teacher. I do teaching also, and I'm writing ideas for my workshops and so, and which is part of the teaching thing, you know. But I really love playing. Actually, I do. I got to have a gig all the time. I know it's like that. That's how I am. You know, I got to have something, a concert to look forward to that I'm planning for, or it's just it's the actual thing of being in the music and playing the music is just an amazing thing.
You've had the chance to play with some big hitters like Billy Higgins and Chuck McPherson and Steve Nelson. What do you learn from these veterans of jazz? What do they give you? Yeah,
that's much. I can even begin to explain. I've been so fortunate playing with these amazing musicians, and it's been giving me so much. I'm so grateful for that. It's everything about the language of jazz and the whole, and not just the language of the exact music. It's also about. I think it's also about the relationship to the arts, like, and to each other in the music. Like, this is a music of some kind of, you could call camaraderie and brotherhood in some way, and it has a spiritual dimension too that I really appreciate. Music, and I got that from, I think, both from Billy Higgins immediately, and he was amazing. I mean, I have that with me for life, the recording session with him. And Nedra Wheeler too, who is bass player in LA and is active today. She's an amazing. I learned a lot from her. I don't know what to be, in detail. That's so much.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah. That's a great answer. What was the first live jazz show that you saw that really, really blew you away?
Oh, live? Yeah. That's a good question. That's a hard one. I haven't even thought about that. I tell you, when I got to America, I spent so much time just listening to the music live. I kind of felt that this is what you got to do, and I just went out in LA. It was acoustic, straight ahead jazz being played all the time. People, I realized that, but there's a strong jazz community in LA. Ron Leonard Park to Billy Higgins was there, of course. Joe Pass was there when I was there in the 90s. He was still around. I played Vine Street Bar and Grill, and he played the weekends there, and I had a Tuesday night, I think. So I met with him there.
In another direction here, and ask you generically, why do you love jazz?
Oh, why do I love jazz? Yeah. I love music, and jazz is the language of this it has, in particular, it's the rhythmic dimension is so deep. It's sometimes I think it's undervalued, the rhythmic dimension in jazz. It's really a big part of it. So I'm always thinking about the music in terms of it's the drums are it's centered around the drums. I mean, so everything I'm relating to the drums when I'm playing. There's always a special relationship with the drummer. There are all these things going on there. We can be, intense, and so that's a very happening and reward that interesting and deep aspect to it. Also, the improvisational language of improvising, of course, expressing yourself right there at the spot, being right in the middle of time, and not being able to go back and change. So it's just so exciting,
Yeah. If you come to Kansas City, the home of Charlie Parker, and you play a live show, let's say down on 18 at Vine, and you have to come up with some kind of way of explaining to people that might be curious about you, what kind of live show would you perform? What's your sound going to be like?
Probably a trio, or maybe a quartet, and it would be upright bass, drums, and guitar. And the fourth player, if it's a quartet, would maybe be vibes that I have on this. If I'm there on my own, or maybe I play a lot of trio, actually. I love playing trio. Yeah, when you're mentioning 18th Street and Vine, I have to tell you I have a special relationship to that. Because I was there on the way across from LA to New York. I drove.
Wow.
And Donald Dean, one of my best friends in Los Angeles, the great drummer, the legendary Donald Dean from many famous recordings, Swiss Movement. He told me, you got to stop at the 18th Street. He was kind of directing me driving into Kansas City on the phone.
Nice.
Yes, I found my way to Musicians Protective Union, and I'm looking at the T-shirt right now. So that's what I want to tell you. The lady there at the union, she gave me the T-shirt, and she poured a nice glass of cognac, and I had the greatest time there in the evening at the local 627.
Yes.
Yeah, 627, and it's a great, beautiful. I love this T-shirt. I only wear it in special occasions.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's a great story. So I have one more question for you, and it's this. Everyone has their perception of you, your family, your friends, your students, but you know yourself best. Who do you think you are?
That was a hard question. I don't know. People have to judge me. I mean, you know, this is what I do, and I do it from my heart. I'm not making much compromising when it comes to music and in terms of, but I do different things in different situations and so. But I tend to. I think I have to play in a kind of a, you know. I can't fake it. I have to play from the heart all the time. Basically, that's where I'm coming from. So it's always on a thing like that. Yeah, every day basically I start playing in the morning. It's like, oh, what do I got new? I remember that was Joe Pass said. Every day I pick up the guitar, I try to play something I never played before. And I'm thinking about that. That's kind of what I'm doing, I guess, in one way or the other. But trying to make sense, make something that makes sense, you know, every time, the first time. And then
Beautiful. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that answer. Thank you, Tomas, for taking time out to talk about the new album, about your life and music. It's been very interesting. I appreciate it.
I'll be at, should I mention my upcoming gigs here real quick? Or?
Sure. Yeah.
I'll be at Smalls in New York on January 22nd, 7 p.m. with my quartet with Steve Nelson on vibes, Chuck McPherson drums, and Hilliard Green on bass. And then I'm also in LA at the Lighthouse now. Before that, on December 22nd, brunch with Nedra Wheeler and Donald Dean. They're also on this record. That's the upcoming closest here.
Beautiful. Well, again, Tomas, thank you for taking time out. Good luck with everything. I appreciate it.
Joe, I appreciate being on the show. Thank you so much for calling.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in Sweden, Los Angeles, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Tomas for his time, music, and stories. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com. And for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.